If I could summarize the core concept of my work and I could just tell you one thing that you needed to do, and I didn't care about sounding harsh, admittedly more harsh than usual, I wouldn't be telling you that you needed to heal. I'd be telling you that you need to grow up. And I know it sounds mean, but essentially, the work of healing is a process of outgrowing our childhood trauma and conditioning and growing into an adult. But of course, if somebody says, grow up, we're like, ugh. So put that aside. But yeah, if you want to actually heal, you're going to inevitably have to grow up. Now, what do I mean about growing up? Because you're a grown up here watching YouTube, paying bills, working at a job you probably hate. You're doing all the grown up things or not, or what is being a grown up. And this is what I want to talk about today. Because I think we believe that grown up just means the burdens of being a grown up and the responsibilities of doing grown up things. But emotionally, a lot of us are stunted. And so today I want to talk about emotional adulthood. So what is emotional adulthood? Well, emotional adulthood means that we are taking full ownership and responsibility for our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, rather than blaming others or external circumstances. Now, you hear the first and you're like, are you kidding me? You tell me I should blame my parents. You blame parents all the time. I do, actually. I will never stop blaming parents. Because I believe that for a good portion of our healing journey, when we start healing, we have to blame the parents. Because for our entire lives, when we're kids, we blamed ourselves for their own shortcomings, for our own abuse. So we have to blame them, meaning we have to know what they did and why, how what they did affected us and why we are the way that we are. But then once we do that, we're like, okay, but now I'm an adult. And so I have this self-awareness to now use what I've learned to outgrow this problem. Jung used to say, we don't solve our problems, we outgrow them. And that's the journey of life, constantly outgrowing the circumstances that are challenging us and becoming bigger than our circumstances. Eventually, we become bigger than the circumstances of our childhood as well. But the process first is to acknowledge what happened. Yes, put the blame where it's due, find who's responsible, see what happened to us because of it, and then the other adult thing that we do is we have self-responsibility. That is adulthood in one word, which should have to be self-responsibility. That's what it means to be an adult. It means you're responsible for yourself. Nobody's going to mother you. Nobody's going to father you. Nobody's going to be treating you like a little baby. And you are aware and understanding that your emotional world is yours. And you have to work with that, not other people having to navigate it, control it, walk around it, and try to kind of like manage you and stuff, right? So you're responsible for yourself, which means you're also responsible for your actions. And when you have done things that are bad or hurtful, you know that you're still responsible for them, even though you have awareness of why you did them, right? And they can be explained away because of your trauma, much like a lot of what your parents did to you can be explained through their trauma. But even though all of that can exist, you're still responsible for the harm that you've caused. For which harm also, since you have self-responsibility, you're also able, now that you're an adult, as part of emotional adulthood, to take full accountability and apologize. And also, you're not really guaranteed for other people to forgive you. But either way, you're self-responsible and you're accountable for that self. So if that self that you're responsible for does something, you are the one that has to apologize. If you were a parent of a child that did something wrong, you would apologize to the person they hurt, right? So, or you would tell them, say sorry. Same goes to you. Because I feel like we thought adulthood is more like, I'm just going to do the grown-up things and just get through life. But really, it is an internal process of navigating life experiences in a way where a lot of the burden falls on us, right? The burden is ours. But of course, there's benefits to being an adult, right? I'll get to them later. So we have self-responsibility, self-accountability. We have emotional regulation. So we're able to feel things without reacting. We know how to navigate our inner turmoils. We get upset, we have an experience. We know how to be with our experience because we're not a toddler. Another trait of emotional adulthood is resilience. Now, resilience, I think, is explained in many ways, but a resilient person is not just somebody who pushes through challenges all the time, like it's like torturing themselves with all sorts of challenges, but resilience is the act, for me at least, resilience is when we're able to continue to go back to the things that we're working on, no matter how hard it gets. And that includes life. When you're an adult, life becomes hard and we keep showing up. And sometimes we fall, and sometimes we get up, and sometimes we're really full on and we're going for it. And then we drop and then something happens and we keep going back at it, keep going. That's adulthood. We keep showing up even though we don't feel like it. And then at times where we can't even show up, we then find our way back to showing up because that's adulthood. The other thing that is a trait of emotional adulthood is a sense of emotional independence. That means that we can exist in environments that don't validate us without collapsing. So we walk into a room, nobody talks to us, nobody likes us in that room. I don't know what's happening. That room, everybody's just horrible to us, and we don't think we're horrible because of that. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have self-awareness. If we keep entering rooms and everybody's like, you're horrible, I don't know what kind of rooms we're entering and what kind of things we're doing to the people in those rooms. We have to also be aware, right? Don't twist that. But for a given situation that things happen, they don't make us collapse ourselves. We know who we are. Being an adult means you know that you have an eternal home. You know who resides in that home, who you are, what you believe in, what you're capable of, right? Being an adult also means we know our boundaries. We know where we stop. We know where we could get to. And we know how to manage ourselves to not fall over. Because being an adult means, again, taking care of ourselves. Also, being an adult means we have no problem setting boundaries in the sense that when we're an adult, we know exactly that we have boundaries, right? We're not a kid. So I was at a shop the other day, and this person was holding on to something, and then there was a kid standing there doing something, and they hit the kid with that, and they're like, haha. And I thought they knew each other. And then the kid was like shocked. And I asked the child, I said, are you not with them? Or are they your friends? Like, no, I don't know them. And the kid just like didn't realize that what these people did was wrong. And I was like, where are these people? They left. Anyway, the thing is that a child doesn't really know that they're allowed to say no or be like, what are you doing? This is my body or something, right? Which I told to that kid, I said, next, where's your mom, first of all? What's going on here? It was a younger child, I guess, 7 or 8. And then I said, if somebody does something to you that hurts or is inappropriate, you can just say, you can just tell them to stop. Or why would they do that, you know? But kids don't catch up to that easily. But when you're an adult, you know that when people do inappropriate things, you're allowed to say no. Because naturally, you know you have boundaries. Somebody touches you inappropriately, you don't go like, oh no. You're like, hey, what are you doing? Kind of thing, right? Now, obviously, there's moments where we freeze, where we're confused, the boundaries are blurred, nuances. But generally, adulthood comes with the information and the certainty, if we're truly emotionally adults, that we have boundaries and we have every right to protect ourselves from others and invading those boundaries, either physical or emotional boundaries. Now, other things that are included in emotional, sort of like being an adult, in emotional adulthood, are the ability to hold the two realities at once. So I could be here, tell you, my dad was actually a really great father in many aspects, right? He provided us with everything that we needed, except just in my case, I was the black sheep, by the way, consistent love. And, the way he treated it was like, it was problematic. But he was so great at always providing. He was very much wanting everybody to study. He wanted us to be educated. He gave us we went for trips. He wanted us to know things. He wanted us to listen to music. He wanted us to eat healthy stuff. Like, he was so good in so many ways, right? As a father. And then at the same time, my history with him was really bad and painful. And so I can stand here and say that he's a horrible person altogether, but I can hold two truths at once and say there was some great things that he did as a father and as a person. I've seen him do great things to others and for others. But also, when it came to what I know and my experience with him, not so good. Do I have to have a black or white decision about who my father was? Not really, because I can hold both realities. He was good, and also to me, he was really bad. And for me, that kind of overtook the whole thing, right? It's not a canceling thing. And also, it doesn't help that my dad also has this side where he's really amazing in general. And you're like, he's so amazing. And then he can just flip. So that is an added thing. But again, when you're an adult, you're able to stand back and see this without having to decide, is he good or is he bad? It's like, oh no, he's both. Okay, but which one is happening the most, or which one am I not willing to experience more of? Am I willing to, like, if we have somebody in our lives that are just grumpy once in a while, we're like, oh, I can tolerate that. Or, so again, we can decide based on that, because also when we're adults, we have flexibility. We can't have rigid rules. I do not tolerate. We can in certain things, but then there's things that hold nuances. Again, adulthood, nuance, flexibility, being able to hold two truths are pretty much the same thing, of being able to see things from a perspective that doesn't force us to say black or white and a rigid decision. It's more like being able to see and hold all of it, and through those nuances, decide how we want to operate. And we don't have to have strict rules. We just have to decide what we want in the moment and then reevaluate, right? Now, another thing that I think is very important when we're really talking about being adults is our willingness to sit with grief and the capacity to hold it, which is the most challenging thing. And actually, I think it's the initiation to adulthood is grief, because adulthood comes with loss of childhood and the protection of the childhood home, which for a lot of us, it may not have felt protective, but it was still the only sense of protection that we had. Even if it was like controlling or abusive or suffocating, it was still protected. Like coming out in the world as your own person can feel like the thing that's going to set you free from your narcissistic parents or whatever. But then you're like, oh no, I'm on my own. It's pretty big. The world's pretty big to be on your own, right? To stand on your own 2 feet. And then adulthood sort of it pushes you through that sort of threshold of going like, okay, you have to grieve the fact that you're no longer going to be taken care of like that. Pause here and we add a little parenthesis that clicked really well, that when women reach adulthood, so when they're barely legal as adults, they can get married. So we're like, let me get out of this and go and get married. And within that is the avoidance to become an adult. And the avoidance to grieve that we have to take care of ourselves, which is why a lot of women struggle with the concept of providing for themselves and do not understand why they should be out working when a man can do that for them, because they want to stay children. They want to stay infantilized and parented, right? Like that's the core. And I'll talk about it more in another video, I guess, so that I don't deviate here. But if we avoid stepping into our lives on our own and facing the fear, the uncertainty, and the grief that adulthood comes with, the moment that we're like, that's it, I'm on my own in the world, we are unable to show up as adults, because we will always look for shelter, emotional shelter, and others to take care of our needs, and others to kind of like mother or father us, depending what it is we missed out the most, right? So, or both, for a lot of us, it was both in some capacity. So the other side of grief that I think is very important is the grief of what happened to us, which is another initiator to adulthood, when we sit down and heal ourselves and do inner child work and basically view the past for what it was, like re-experience the past for what it was, remember our relational history. And then there's a lot of grief there, which helps us grieve the childhood, grieve the parents we had, the parents we thought we would have, we wish we had, whatever. And then we're like, let me go to adulthood. If we don't do the grief, if we don't grieve, if we don't really accept that childhood is over, we will most likely come into adulthood and repeat the patterns of the childhood. We're going to chase partners that look just like our parents. We're going to chase love the way we were chasing it for our parents. We're going to be a pleaser. We're going to be a fixer. We're going to date projects. We're going to date unavailable men. We're going to date narcissistic men. We're going to do all sorts of things because we haven't accepted that first block of our lives went the way that it did, affected us the way that it has, and that the people that we wanted love from didn't love us. The initiator then to emotional adulthood is acceptance that the childhood is over, that comes with grief. Because once we accept that something is over, but it felt incomplete, we didn't get enough love, we didn't get enough recognition, we never felt worthy, we never got what we wanted. But accepting that will remain incomplete in that context is what initiates us into becoming adults. And within that, of course, becoming an adult means that you are able to now parent yourself in the day-to-day, right? Right. So that's it. That's adulthood for you. For us, it's a process of growth or of outgrowing past versions of ourselves constantly, while it's grieving what was lost, grieving what wasn't, grieving what we wished but didn't happen, and somehow managing this loss and then looking forward for new things and finding things that give meaning to our lives, that are no longer like, when I grow up, I am going to be. I'm going to, like, because now we're grown-ups, right? It's like, when we were kids, we're like, when I grow up, I'm going to be this. And now we're grown-ups and we're like, I never became that. Can I become that, right? It's really confronting to be an adult, because you can no longer aspire to when I grow up kind of narrative and fantasy, which is also good because adulthood doesn't entertain fantasies at all. The adult sets goals. And the adult also knows that some of these goals are not going to happen anymore. And we gently put them to sleep, put them to rest. Or some of these goals, we don't want them anymore. And again, we put them to rest. And then some of these goals we want to achieve. So we go for them. So adulthood is confronting. It doesn't include fantasy. It includes a lot of acceptance of looking at reality in a way that it can hold all aspects of reality. There's one benefit, in my opinion, being an adult. There's more, obviously, if I were like, let me find, but for me, there's one amazing benefit of being an adult, that you're free to do whatever you want. A child is constantly being told what to do, even if you have good parents that are nice to you. You're not free to make decisions. You're not free to do all these things. But freedom is the ultimate gift that adulthood comes with. And by stalling our initiation and walking through the pathway of adulthood, we are stalling our opportunity to be free without anybody telling us what to do, anybody holding us back, anybody trying to define our experience, anybody trying to whatever. We are free to take decisions, and with those decisions come everything we said before, responsibility and all of that. But yeah, the cost of not growing into an adult emotionally is that you will never be free. You will be trapped in trauma bonds with your parents, in patterns that you can't get out of, in sort of constantly not being able to navigate your own experience, feeling overwhelmed and not being able to cope with life, not being able to set boundaries, not trusting yourself, and avoiding reality, and therefore grief, and therefore failure, and therefore avoiding life. Not becoming an adult puts you into the path of avoidance, where you're inevitably walking towards the future because the future is inevitably going to come and find you, but you're looking towards the past and you're trying to walk towards the past, but you're moving towards the future. It's almost like, this the electric staircases, you're on the other side and you're supposed to go up, and you're standing on it and walking down, but the stair is going up and you're like, no, I'm going to keep going down. And the stairs are not going to change their direction, right? But you're in this opposition to life. Instead of going, actually facing and moving toward life, you're facing the past, and you're stuck in childhood, and you're a child really in an adult body that needs a parent. But you have to be that parent. You have to be there and be like, come, take you from that staircase and hold your hand and be like, that's where we're going, honey. That's the direction. Come with me. And then slowly, you are being reparented to move up the stairs. As they're moving, you're also moving, and you're moving, and you're moving, and then life ends. And here you have it. That's what adulthood is. The journey of growing into ourselves until the end of this journey, which can be really meaningful. May not be always great, may not always be fun. We may not get what we want, but we can indeed make the most of it. And I think we should. Because when we were children, we didn't have this freedom to choose, to even think or support ourselves in some sort of way. And we were just thrown into the experiences that we were thrown, with the people that we're with, and being treated the way that we were. Had no access to anything else. So we had no choice really for us to just have the childhood that we had. And a lot of us just escaped in our imagination, disconnection, fantasizing a great future. And now that we have this future, we are here, we're crippled because we haven't outgrown the past. So it wasn't just about, oh, I'm going to be 18, I'm going to be 25, I'm going to be 40, and then and then you're 40 and you're like, what's going on here, right? So we didn't have that freedom then. And now that we do, we might as well exercise it and enjoy it and make the most of it in whatever way is accessible and possible for us based on the resources that we have in this moment. Because that is true self-actualization, isn't it? Right? Being able to use the resources that we have at the moment that we need them, and then keep growing and growing and growing, using what we have, depending on the season, blah, blah, blah. But at least we're moving. The staircase is going up. Maybe sometimes we're walking or standing, it's moving up. We're looking toward the future. We don't run and be like, oh, my mommy, I'm running to the past. I'll see you soon.